Thanks for joining us here on France 24. I'm Jeannie Godula in Paris. Well, we're going to start with that dramatic escape from Japan of one of the most famous auto executives in the world, Carlos Ghosn. The former chairman of Nissan is now in Lebanon after slipping out of Tokyo. He had been on bail in Japan, where he was due to stand trial next year on charges of financial misconduct. Now, Ghosn is a citizen of Lebanon, which means he is legally protected there from extradition back to Japan. The escape caught almost everyone by surprise, including his own Japanese lawyers.
We were completely caught by surprise. I am dumbfounded. Of course, his departure is unacceptable, as it is a violation of his bail conditions in the eyes of Japanese law. But in terms of whether I understand the desire to take such an action, well, that is another issue.
Carlos Ghosn now in Lebanon, as is our Beirut correspondent, Molana-Allen. She told us more about Ghosn's dramatic escape.
When the news broke yesterday, it was very unclear what exactly had happened, and at first people thought, well, perhaps a deal had been struck between the Lebanese and Japanese governments in order to bring Mr. Ghosn back. Just 10 days ago, the Japanese Minister for Foreign Affairs was in Beirut, but there was no statement released then about any particular agreement as to his fate. But it's now become clear that it's very unlikely that was the case. It looks like Mr. Ghosn was, in fact, smuggled out of the country. He arrived here on Sunday in a private jet from Turkey, and some reporting, some local media, that actually he came in under a different name, not his own name, because of course his lawyers in Japan still retain his passports. However, now we're getting some other reports from local media that he may have used his French passport. That is yet to be verified, but definitely clear that he didn't come in on his Lebanese passport. So there must have been some sort of agreement with Lebanese authorities, knowing that he was coming into the country, because he would have come in on a different nationality's passport. Now, so that news broke last night, and today many other things being reported by local media too, such as the fact that people think he might have been brought in a crate, a particular box designed for musical instruments, smuggled out of Japan in that, with a musical band, presumably quite a large box, perhaps for a larger instrument. Very dramatic story here spreading around, and many conspiracy theories as well. Some people saying that perhaps the Lebanese government was involved and in some way, for some reason, wants Mr. Ghosn back in the country, because they did, of course, advocate for his release initially when Mr. Ghosn began to face these charges.
Leila, it really is like something out of a spy movie. I mean, we're talking about a possible smuggling out in a music crate. I guess the big question for many of our international viewers is why Lebanon, and how is Carlos Ghosn seen there?
So, of course, Mr. Ghosn has 3 passports. He has his Brazilian passport, which is where he was born. He has his French passport, he's a citizen, and he has a Lebanese passport from his ancestry. So the first real reason is because, of course, his wife is Lebanese, and they have been separated since April, when he was put under house arrest. They haven't been allowed to see each other. That was one of the terms of his very strict bail, that he wasn't allowed to see his wife, and he was being watched by 3 different security services, which is what makes it so amazing that he was able to flee the country. So she is here, and we are hearing from local media that he has gone to his wife's house and is now reunited with his wife. That's the first reason. The other reason is the fact that Lebanon does not have an extradition treaty with Japan, so it's now extremely unlikely that he's going to be able to be forced to go back to Japan to face that trial now that he's been able to escape. And that's probably the reason why even his lawyers didn't know that he was planning on doing this, because the safest thing for him, if he wasn't going to be extradited, was just to make it back to Beirut anyway, anyhow, and he is now here. And that also, that fact that there isn't an extradition treaty here, also part of that is that he is so popular here that even if this clearly is going to create a diplomatic problem with the Japanese government, and the Japanese do send a lot of aid to Lebanon. Lebanon's not in a situation right now to be able to let go of the international aid that it's receiving, because it is facing a dire economic crisis. But Mr. Ghosn is so popular in this country. He's seen as something of a national hero. He's one of the country's most successful entrepreneurs internationally. He has a hand in many Lebanese businesses. And so it seems very likely that he's decided to come back here and has had the support of some institutions here to come back, rebuild his life here and start running those businesses again. There has been a call to international Lebanese-based businessmen to come back and help the country during the times that it's struggling with right now. So I imagine that that's the case, that he's been working with several people to come back here and rebuild his life in the country.
That's France 24's Molana-Allen reporting from Beirut.